And action. Hey everyone, Steph had a question about omega-3 oils. So I was going to do this for lowering cholesterol, but there's too many things to talk about. First of all, with omega-3, and I've had other people bring up similar questions, so I'm going to try to put everything in together in one video. So, but if it's the first time you're finding me, please hit the subscribe button down below and the alert button to find out when I do new videos. So, omega-3 oil. First off, we should probably talk about why we need oil. I think, so oils are part of fats, and fats are macronutrients. As humans, we need three types of macronutrients: proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. We need them all. Contrary to popular belief as far as the low carb camp or the keto camp or the paleo camp, I think if you just look at the average American diet, I call it the standard American diet or the SAD diet. The SAD diet is way high in omega-6s. The oils in the SAD diet probably are half because of all the fast foods or the processed foods. This is the steak, egg, and cheese bagel that I used to eat all the time when I worked at Donata Family Medicine in Wheaton. Used to always stop by that McDonald's on the corner, pick up my stuff, go through the back door, and I remember sitting in the back door, I couldn't wait to feel the juiciness of this thing drip from the steak and whatever oil it's made from. If it was steak, who knows? But this is from 2011, and it looks pretty okay. I don't know if you could see that, if there's too much glare, but I did have my hash brown here somewhere. I don't know what happened to it. But this is omega-6. Because of the aggressive amounts of omega-6 in an average or standard American diet, you have an overabundance of 6 and an underutilization of 3. You're supposed to have both. But when you don't have enough 3 and you have more 6, it theoretically can cause inflammation. There was a recent paper that was released that said boosting up on omega-3, EPA, DHA, did not curb cardiovascular disease or disease occurrence, heart attack. However, just because standard American diet's so heavy in 6, and just because depression is usually associated with high 6s, I think it's important to balance. Now, if you're not of the camp that agrees with cholesterol like Sinatra and the cholesterol myth, some people, or there are reasons that we use statins, and the conspiracy theory is that the statin industry has given us fake information. But honestly, if you see people who have had heart attacks, about 50% don't have a cholesterol issue. And sometimes if you look at people that have high cholesterol, not all of them progress on to heart attack. Unfortunately, my patient and friend just had a heart attack, and we did have an elevated cholesterol, so I'm going to say for that person that the cholesterol probably got you to the point of narrowing of the coronary arteries to the mean of what, 99%. So the stent is keeping us alive, but I'm pretty confident if we lower the cholesterol and make a lifestyle change, get stress neutralized, we should be fine. So regardless of the cholesterol level, I think it's a nice metric. So if anything, if we have a lifestyle that brought you to me, and you want to change, then I think that metric, cholesterol, even sugar or glucose, sometimes thyroid, B12, vitamin D, magnesium, waistline, BMI, blood pressure reading, all that stuff, quality of sex, quality of sleep, all that stuff are great as a metric or a measurement, a snapshot before our travels or our lifestyle change, and then another repeat of the same snapshot afterward to see what has changed. Just in case you don't feel anything, I'll prove that we've changed. If I can't get a change, then we'll redo everything again. So no matter which books or authors you look at, I think it's safe enough to say that the standard American diet stinks. Standard American lifestyle stinks. And I think that's why we have, $3.2 trillion in healthcare spending that is just going to accelerate and magnify if we don't do anything with regards to our own health. We have to take the onus. because the government is taking less and less. They're giving less and less for covered medicines and covered therapy, doctors that get covered. But we do have life-saving procedures, thank God. But if we can avoid that, and I think the average diabetic, the average high blood pressure patient, the average cholesterol patient, and heart disease patient, really that disease is preventable. But and I just saw a 17-year-old here today with elevated triglycerides. We're going to bring this down. But I think the manifestation is if it's happening in early youth, fix it then. Again, reverse the disease. You're certainly not going to put a 17-year-old on a statin. I wouldn't, but I am going to start flaxseed oil. So I usually go with Viva. This is my favorite because I get it online, and it has 1,000 milligrams of total omega-3 per capsule. I don't have my glasses on, but here, if you can see it, is 2,000 per serving, and the serving's 2 capsules, so 1,000 milligrams of total omega-3 per capsule. That's pretty good. If you can get 1,000 milligrams per capsule, and if you have a cholesterol problem, or if you have an imbalance issue with too many 6s and not enough 3s, 4,000 a day. You split that up because the gut can only absorb 2,000 at a time, 2,000 in the morning, 2,000 at night. Freeze them so you don't burp all day, and pick and choose. Sometimes you'll have gastric irritation. If you don't, you're good. But repeat testing again, see if it helps, see if it calms you down. Also very good for arthritis in case you're too high in omega-6, not in omega-3. But for young guys, I think number one, the capsule's not as big. This is flax. So flax is plant-based omega-3. It's a little bit different than animal-based omega-3 from fish. But honestly, the fish eat the algae that produces omega-3, but the chains of the ALA omega-3 are a little bit shorter than the long-chain fatty acids of omega-6. And but still, either way, we're just starting with my young guys, so I'm going to give them this. And this is also good for vegetarians who don't like taking DHA or EPA. You can get omega-3 from plant. It'll just be DHA and or ALA. That's another lecture altogether, but just realize this. Again, if you balance omega-3 to equal omega-6, then we're cool. If your balance is imbalanced and you're all omega-6 and not enough omega-3, that can lead to inflammation. This is anti-inflammatory, this is pro-inflammatory. That's established. I don't care what the studies are saying about not helping with cardiovascular disease. It helps my patients decrease their metric number. So whether that translates out to cardiovascular disease, I don't care. I've made a lifestyle change with myself, and I've made a lifestyle change with my patients. If this gets them too, just because it's placebo, who cares? As long as we get to it and we're not spending $1 million bucks. So there's a time that we take randomized controlled trials and studies for the general population, but every patient that I see is one-on-one, and I have to personally design specific changes. And that's the other thing. Sometimes we have to change around the type of oil that we use. Again, plant-based oil is great. Grapeseed oil has a high smoke point, so I like to pop my popcorn kernels with this, but the omega-3 oils and olive oil taste better, and they just work better. They savor the vegetables better. Both of these are nice. Low smoke point, general cooking and drizzling. High smoke point if you want to use it for high deep frying. So that's a way to get omega-3 in. The other way to get omega-3 in is if you're a plant-based eater, then get it in. Some people will say, ooh, coconut, it's got too many saturated fats. And yes, coconut has saturated fats, but it does have a source of omega-3. So saturated fats sometimes lead to cholesterol. I get, again, it's healthier than theoretically sometimes fish oil. I love fish oil. I think sardines, salmon, herring, mackerel, they're all great in omega-3, but the theory, which has yet to be stated in randomized controlled trials, but we assume, the theory is that most of the fish are swimming in an ocean or 7 oceans, in oceans of pollution. And it makes sense. Even with Fukushima, there's radiation. But the question is, are really all fish exposed to that? And what is going to be the toxic burden when you eat a fish? Or usually this is equal to 1 can of this, 7 ounces of salmon, if sockeye salmon, because sockeye salmon is the only salmon that you cannot farm, so it has to come from the ocean instead of a farm. Will eating several of these give you the proper amount of omega-3, and usually 1,000 milligrams per serving. So 1,000 milligrams is cool. Remember, I told you 4,000 is total. 2,000 or more, 2,009 would be suggested as far as supplementation. If you're going to eat fish, depending on what you think about as far as toxic burden, pesticides, GMO, then you go for, again, 2,000 a day, or you can take 4 of these a day and you'll be stinking like fish. It is a little pricey, so you have to be careful. I eat these outside because I can't eat them at home because they smell like fish, and I can't even in the office because they'll smell like fish. So I'm a recluse when I eat my fish. However, because of my friend Bob, I'm going vegan for the next 3 months, and I'll let you know what happens. So we try to get as much as possible in. Guacamole is awesome. The only problem with guacamole, which comes from avocado, another great source of omega-3, is that you need to eat the guacamole with something. And what do we eat guacamole with? Well, avocado. Usually you can have avocado is prepped properly with chips, but I can't stop eating chips, so this is not a good thing for me. The chips would be a problem, and the chips would be way too high in omega-6, and it would defeat the purpose of me doing this, but I'm going to go home. It's my weekend, so I'm going to have some guacamole. You can also have nuts. Walnuts are a great source of omega-3. I like Target brand assorted dry roasted nuts. The only problem is there's not enough walnuts in here, and usually 1 to 2 handfuls of walnuts will give you a pretty decent load of omega-3 oil. Again, it's going to be plant-based, but also have fiber in it, and it's natural. So if you take the Target brand, Archer? Yeah, Archer Farms assorted dry roasted nuts, no salt, maybe mix in a couple of handfuls. I got this from Mariano's. A handful of this, you will be good. But again, it's to get the supplement in if you can't get the whole food source in, but always shooting for proper amounts of whole food. The one problem when you have carnivores or people who eat steak, beef, pork, chicken, sometimes turkey and fish is that you are going to get a little bit of omega-3, but you also get a lot of omega-6, and you're trying to cut back on the total omega-6. If you eat too many omega-6s, then your body can't produce omega-3 because it takes building blocks and it makes omega-3 and omega-6. If you have too much omega-6, pro-inflammatory. If you have the building blocks for omega-3 and omega-6, but you have, again, too many omega-6s in the diet in the background, then your enzymes or your pathway will be too busy trying to process omega-6, and it won't be able to give you omega-3. That's why it has to be an even balance. Not only in the supplement you choose, and be cautious with these things. Whether it's flaxseed or fish oil, the oils in here, you'll see on the front, some of these companies, on the front they'll put like 1,000, right? This says 1,000 milligrams. It's not 1,000 milligrams of omega-3, it's 1,000 milligrams of oil. If you look around on the back, it's about it should be about 500. I'm not sure if I read this right. I don't have my glasses, but I believe it's about 500 per capsule of total omega-3. And this too, total fish oil is 2,200, but the total omega-3 per serving, which is 2 soft gels, is 2,000. So you have an extra 200, and on the front panel it does say 220, but Viva's nice. They have 220 of total oil, but they also break down into the EPA and DHA, which is the animal-based omega-3. The plant-based omega-3 will be ALA. If you're lucky, you might be able to find some of your companies will have flax and DHA from algae. So that too would be good. So for sure, DHA, if you get it in high enough volume, will help brain, will help the fat in the brain, will help the brain process, depression. EPA was thought to help save the heart, but again, in the studies, it didn't really sway one way or another at the end result. But for my patients, again, I think it does have an element of satiety to it. There might be a placebo response. There definitely is no nocebo response with it. But if it gets you to help lose weight, get into the gym, recover from exercise properly, have a level of satiety, then why not do it if it's affordable? But you always want to go with a whole food plant-based approach, mostly plant food if you can. If you can't, then you do a whole food approach. If you can't even do that, then you take supplements out the yin-yang, but you'll be spending a lot of money on supplements and you might be defeating the purpose. So Steph has an endpoint to this. I think I covered everything. As an endpoint to this, it is also important to understand with reducing cholesterol and trying to balance omega-3, omega-6, you have to also read. And if you look at the literature, whether you do a carb low diet like paleo or keto, which is the craze now, or you do a fasting diet, which is also the craze now, or you do a Blue Zones, Dan Buettner suggested, population study suggested lifestyle, or you do an Ornish lifestyle, we go with somebody that's done the most data and the most research. And the guys that are putting out keto, paleo, fasting, they're good. The authors are definitely good. But the rigorous control of population studies, people living to 100 over and over again in certain parts of the world and trying to break down their practice. And if you live to 100, the likelihood of you having heart disease is low. Or Ornish's work, which has been ignored, I believe, by the medical community for some reason, but it showed reversal of heart disease. Within 30 days, not the spectrum, but Ornish's lifestyle prevention trial, within 30 days of a vegetarian low-fat diet, in addition to the other lifestyle changes, no more symptoms. Within a year, reversal somewhat of narrowing of the arteries. Within 5 years, continued reversal of narrowing of the arteries. Those are people that were supposed to be for bypass, and a lot of them in the study did not go on to bypass anymore. And they went on to live healthy lives. I think there was a segment in, I trained at the Arizona Center for Integrative Medicine, and we had Escape Fire, which was a movie done by a director out of that highlighted some of the graduates before me. But one of Dean Ornish's patients was featured there. I'll see if I can put a link to that. It's fantastic. Reversing disease with diet versus a $100,000 bypass surgery, which usually limits you for several years, and it gives you a second wind on life. But if, like my stent guys, my patient friend was just released, and usually with stents, I'll find that even if the stent reversed 100-degree narrowing to, say, 30 degrees, and still tiny but open from before, that's what stents do. They open the artery that was previously clogged up. When they open the artery in certain narrowed parts of the artery, if you make no other changes, you'll be getting another stent in 6 years. If you still make no other changes, you'll be getting bypass surgery in 10 years. Those are the statistics. That's why it's so important to reverse lifestyle. It's not just a diet, it's stress reduction, it's group therapy, it's exercise, it's yoga, it's calming practice. All these things are important. Again, Buettner found that if you do these kind of things, you can live to 100 without a heart attack, without a hiccup. If you don't do these kind of things, then you'll end up like a standard American with a standard American heart attack. So it's your choice. I think we should feel empowered that you can beat the disease. Even if you're already into the disease, I think there are still ways, and the data shows it, I think there are still ways to reverse disease naturally. Now, I'm not poo-pooing the procedures of medicine. Modern medicine saves lives, saved my friend's life, and it, especially with trauma, it saves everybody's lives. But there are going to be diseases where the first symptom of a heart attack is death. And that comes to about 125 to 250,000 people a year. So we can avoid that if we only had the tools. Unfortunately, Western medicine, we don't get taught nutrition or exercise or calming practice in medical school. I had to learn that on my own, with my own buck, and through my own time of taking away from my family. But I think it's certainly worth it for me as an individual. I'm going to be turning 56. I'm feeling more empowered now than I ever have, and now I'm going vegan. So I guarantee you in 3 months, which I will either end the experiment to being vegan, or I'll empower myself to do even more. I will not lose muscle mass. I'll be healthier than before, and hopefully I'll see how easy it is to get into this. I'll document my journey here in addition to my friend's journey. But so again, Steph, great question. Hopefully the rest of you can be empowered to make lifestyle changes, or at least use us doctors to kind of decipher all the craziness of information out there. I appreciate you listening until the end, and hopefully it gave you a little bit of information. So I'll see you at the next clinic.